Welcome to the Planet B podcast, where truth, transformation, and faith converge. Join us as we flip the script on ecological despair, guided by Dr. Sailesh Rao's vision for a compassionate, rewilded vegan world. Let's begin the journey to the greatest transformation in human history.
Welcome to episode 2 of the Planet B podcast. This week we'll be sharing the second chapter of There Is a Planet B, and the title is The Greatest Transformation in Human History. Joining us now from Planet B is Dr. Rao. So where would you like to start today?
Well, I call this the greatest transformation in human history because I was comparing it with other transformations that we know of, like the agriculture revolution, the industrial revolution, the scientific revolution, the internet revolution, even the AI revolution that's happening right now, or for that matter, the discovery of fire, when we figured out how to control fire. I say that compared to all of those revolutions, the revolution that we are building right now to go from planet A to planet B will be known as the greatest transformation in human history. Because it's about discovering the spiritual fire within humanity. It's about discovering that we are part of nature, that we've always been a part of nature, and that we are just an instrument in nature's hands. It's that transformation from thinking that we are separate from nature, that we are dominating nature, to realizing that we have been like the masons who built the pyramid, right?
Yeah.
And there was a pharaoh who was running that whole show. If you think that the pyramid is yours, you're going to discover that that is not true. So ultimately, we are creating the stability for the life support systems of the planet. That's our role. That's what we've been called to do. And when we realize that and we have this humility about belonging on Earth with all the other life forms, with all the animals we need them, all the birds and all the fishes. And these are all different ways that life is expressing herself. And we are not superior to any of them. We are not inferior to any of them. We are just a part of nature. I say that honesty, humility, health, happiness, and harmony, the 5 H's that you will find on planet B, from the 5 D's, domination, deception, death, disease, and destruction, that you find on planet A, where we think that we are dominating nature and we are basically deceiving each other to figure out who's on top, who's at the bottom. We are playing con games on everybody, and then death for the animals, diseases for human beings. We deliberately make kids eat the wrong foods. We show them candies at eye level in supermarket so that they can get addicted to sugar. Yeah, all of this to me is what the company town is telling us is the right way to do it. You have to get your kids sick, so they go and eat metformin, as they grow.
Right.
It's all this because you need to grow the diabetes industry, you need to grow the heart disease industry. Everything needs to grow. That mindset puts us in this death, disease, and destruction frame of systems building. That's the kind of system that we have built.
And we need to go to the discipline system. So the greatest transformation in human history. It's your slogan with Climate Healers is transform yourself, transform our world. So it really comes from within. And I love how you start chapter 2 with the quote from Immanuel Kant, who's a German philosopher from the 1700s. It states, "The greatest human quest is to know what one must do to become a human being."
Correct.
Why did you choose that quote to begin this chapter?
To me, human already has humility in it. It has humus in it. It's basically you're of the soil, you're of the earth. You're part of the earth. Everything that you have built, every cell in your body came from the earth. So knowing that you're part of the earth, that is what Immanuel Kant was referring to. having that humility, knowing that you're not the boss. Puncture your ego, come down to earth and know that you belong like anyone else and you have a role to play, right? It is that understanding that we have a purpose as a species, and that within that purpose we can find, each one of us can find a purpose, how we contribute to the larger purpose. And so that is what this transformation is about. I read somewhere in a cartoon, I think it said, whoever has the most toys at the end wins.
Oh my.
Is that the game? Whoever has the most toys at the end. What is the end? End is when you die. What happens to all the toys you accumulated when you die? It's not, you don't take it with you.
Right.
You're done. So that's not a game. That's not the kind of game we should be playing. There are better ways to play these games, where because we play games, and this is how we coordinate our actions among millions and billions of us. Chimpanzees play games too, but they don't play games that extend beyond their tribe. So we have figured out how to play games that extend beyond what we consider to be an immediate tribe, and now we are playing global games. We tell stories, and that's how we create games, that multiplayer games that can be played by millions and billions at the same time. The idea of money is a game. The idea of nation states is a game. It's part of this story that we tell. And then we are saying, okay, if you come across this border, I'm going to shoot you.
Yeah.
The animals are looking at us saying, what is wrong with this thing?
All right.
There is no border for them.
All right. At this stage, humanity has found a way to coordinate activities across the entire planet. So if we're operating under the right foundational truths with love, if everything that we're doing is through love, then we can easily turn this whole thing around. But
Absolutely.
If we keep moving in the direction that we're moving, then, unfortunately, we'll have to face consequences.
Yeah, but that's like saying, look, here is a ledge, and you have to walk on this path, to cross this ledge and cross this precipice and go across to the peak of the mountain, the peak of the summit, right? So you have to do certain things. Now, if you keep looking to the left and saying, oh my God, if I fall, I'm going to break all my bones. And if I fall to the right, I may break my head. I say at some point you have to stop doing that. Just focus on the path ahead. There is a way out. And that way out is to create a vegan world as quickly as possible. So we're going to go into those solutions. There are solutions available to us.
Correct.
Because we have options. And based on those options, we can choose what options we pick. And that's the path we need to highlight for everybody. This is how you get to planet B. You need to do these 8 things. So we'll get into that later in later chapters. There are 8 things that we can all be doing that would help us get healthier and healthier. And as we get healthier and healthier, the planet gets healthier and healthier around us.
All right. And because we're operating at a level where we can coordinate as one, essentially, across the planet, that's where the systems engineering is so key, because it's the systems that we're creating that function across humanity and Earth that will bring about this planet B. So in chapter 2, you share a bit about your systems engineering background, where you studied at Stanford University, and then you helped to create systems for the internet. Can you share a little bit about your background and kind of what led you to the discovery that it's really humans systems engineering that can fix the climate crisis?
That can fix our human engineered systems. Okay, so that they are in alignment and they will solve the climate crisis when you fix your engineering systems. When people talk about, oh, we know how to solve the problem, just do this, go buy electric cars, there's no system behind it. They're not showing you a model to show that it will actually solve the problem. They're not doing anything that would be, I would consider to be formal systems engineering. Formal systems engineering is what I studied at the Information Systems Laboratory at Stanford University. I studied under some of the best systems engineers in the world. And they taught us how to model things, how to characterize a solution space, how to find optimum solutions. And then they sent us off into the world, and I went and worked on the internet. How do you create communication systems in the presence of so much noise? When you're sending data from a computer to a switch, that data line is surrounded by AM radio, FM radio, TV, you name it, right? All kinds of signals that it's picking up because it's a big antenna. And so how do you design these things so that it will still communicate in the presence of all that noise? And that's the kind of systems engineering that I was doing in the internet. And when I quit that because I saw Al Gore's presentation on TV and I was so shocked by what he was saying. I said, I better start looking at the environmental systems and see how human engineered systems can be impacted, right? And how can we use that to impact the environmental systems that they are all going in the right direction? So I saw that as a systems problem right away. Okay, and I started looking at it as a systems problem. And that's what I've been studying for the last 20 years. And I'm saying, based on my background, here is the gift I can offer you, which is that there are human engineered systems that we can design that will be in alignment with the life support systems of the planet, that will help the life support systems stabilize and can be maintained then forever. So we can create a formal framework for this. And that's the paper we wrote also.
That talk from Al Gore was in 2005, and then in 2007, you founded Climate Healers.
Correct.
So you went from probably a pretty successful career in systems engineering, and then all of a sudden you dropped that and started a nonprofit, and then started full-time working on this way to try to help save the planet. I mean, that had to be a pretty big change for you.
Yeah, it was. I felt the enormity of the problem when I first heard Al Gore's presentation. Okay, I felt the enormity of the problem, and then I realized that continuing to do my work on the internet, trying to make it faster and faster, would not satisfy me anymore.
Yeah.
That there are more important problems to address, right? So, and if that requires me to start a nonprofit, then so be it. That's what I started doing. I started using all my savings to deploy it towards this, right? And I started Climate Healers in 2007 because I realized that the way Mr. Gore was framing the problem, it was not going to solve the problem because he was only looking at fossil fuels. So I wanted to create a nonprofit that would focus on the entire solution. How would you solve the problem from a systems engineering perspective? And initially I was doing a lot of field research work. So I was going to Rajasthan in India, I was going to Orissa in India, and I was spending time with the villagers, understanding how biodiversity loss was happening, how does the desert get formed. I was trying to understand the systems that drive that.
And at that time, I believe you were vegetarian. You weren't yet vegan at that moment.
No, I was vegetarian. I was lacto-vegetarian. I was born lacto-vegetarian into a lacto-vegetarian family. And even when I started Climate Healers, I was consuming dairy. But a year after I started Climate Healers, I went vegan.
And that happened in Rajasthan. So what could you share a little bit about the pivotal event that made you just drop dairy right away?
Yeah, I as a systems engineer, I'm aware of sensitivity analysis. It's called sensitivity analysis, where you figure out what each step can do. If I do this, what happens to the system? If I do that, what happens to the system? And I was studying, okay, what would happen if everybody goes, if people drop dairy? And the literature was basically saying it's minor compared to going vegan. Okay, it's just a slightly worse than going vegan. So I thought, okay, I'm only slightly worse than being vegan. And then I realized when I went to this village in Rajasthan that I was being conned. I was being conned because they were doing a local sensitivity analysis. So they were basically assigning a small portion of the impact of raising a cow on the dairy consumer and assigning the major portion of the impact of raising a cow on the beef consumer.
Mm.
But these two are the same. Basically the dairy consumer says, okay, I'm done with the cow, now you eat her, right? To the beef consumer.
Mm.
Now, right? So if you think about it, when you do a global sensitivity analysis, what is a global sensitivity analysis compared to a local sensitivity analysis? Local sensitivity analysis says the system does not change. You only change one minor thing and see what happens. So that's the sensitivity you do, analysis you do. In a global sensitivity analysis, you say, if everybody does this one step, what happens? So the analysis I started doing is, what if everybody goes lacto-vegetarian and there is no one to eat the cow? What happens to the impact on the planet? And I realized that lacto-vegetarianism becomes the worst possible lifestyle because you're proliferating cows to get milk out of them, and then no one is eating them.
Right.
And the cows live for 25 years eating up the planet. So I calculated for the same dairy consumption that's happening on this planet today, you would need 16 times as many cows as we have today.
16 times?
16 times. Because no one's eating the cow. No one is killing the cow, because as a lacto-vegetarian, I didn't want any harm to happen to the cow. I was only going to take the excess milk after the calf is finished. Okay, I wanted the cow and the calf to have their relationship, and I was saying, okay, I'm also a baby of yours, so give me some milk from you. Right? And if that's the way we live, if that's the lacto-vegetarian, ethical lacto-vegetarianism is what I was practicing. If everybody was an ethical lacto-vegetarian, I realized that you would need 16 times as many cows. And you would proliferate the planet with cows, and the planet will literally die on the spot. So I said, I am the worst of the lot, and therefore I'm going vegan on the spot. So I did that in 2008. Yeah.
So yeah, that's been almost 17 years. So from the onset of Climate Healers in 2007 to now we're at the beginning of 2026, how has your work and the team's work evolved throughout the 19 years?
Yeah, initially I was focusing on solving within the system.
Mm-hmm.
How do you solve the problem within the system? But the more I studied the existing system, the more I realized that it's impossible, because I found all these foundational myths. I was reminded of my work in the internet, where initially we built a chip to communicate from a computer to a switch, and it didn't work at all. And I was analyzing why it didn't work. And I came to some foundational issues. Right. So it was a digital signal processing chip, meaning you have to convert from analog to digital, and then everything was done with digital numbers and logic gates and so on. But the analog to digital converter, if that doesn't work right, it doesn't matter what you do with the bits you get out of it, you will never solve the problem.
The system malfunction.
It's a complete malfunction. That's what was happening to me, to that chip, right? So I told my manager, my bosses at that time, as long as the analog to digital converter is broken, don't even bother asking me. Okay, let us fix that, and then we can solve the problem. Then you can question me and say, why is it not working? So they agreed. If the foundations are wrong, you cannot solve the problem. They agreed with that. And the same thing has happened to this system. Initially, I was working on trying to fix this system, and then I realized that the foundations are wrong, fundamentally wrong. It's like the analog to digital converter being broken. So then I started thinking about, how do you create this new system? And I've written books about it. Previously I wrote a book called Carbon Dharma, which was basically about analyzing the problem and pointing out that there are foundational issues. And then once I wrote that, I focused more on the veganism. Until then, I was focusing on solar energy and things like that. right? So then we wrote a book called Carbon Yoga in 2016, which is more about how do we go about doing it. And that had details on what kind of economic system we should have, what kind of political system, and things like that. It's more of a how as opposed to what we need to do.
Right.
And then I wrote a book called There's a Pinky Promise. The Pinky Promise, which is about my granddaughter and how she helped me see through these things, see the foundational flaws in the system. And then there's an anthology called Animal Agriculture is Immoral, which came out during COVID, because I was so shocked. When COVID happened, I thought, okay, there's a problem here. We need to address it together. And but then the root cause was animal agriculture, was the use of animals. And I saw all these policies and that slaughterhouses are termed as essential infrastructure. I said, how can that be essential infrastructure? And you make people work in slaughterhouses even though they are sick. And I said, this is an utterly immoral activity. And so we compiled a bunch of essays from people on animal agriculture is immoral, from various religious traditions. Everyone said it's an immoral activity that's going on. In fact, the next newsletter I'm going to write is about that too.
Very good.
And then finally, this book came out in 2025. There is a Planet B, where I've tried to make it more colloquial so that you understand what this transformation is all about in a nutshell. Okay. And then I've written a formal paper. So I co-authored that with Jared Bishop on the Planet B systems engineering framework, which is much more formal, which shows you, why there is no other way. This is the only way I can see. I don't see any other way to solve the problem. And once we know it's, once we have established it formally on a scientific basis, then, we have to go to people who have resources and power and say, do you really want to solve the problem or not? Because 195 nations have already said they're going to solve the Sustainable Development Goals. They're going to meet them by 2030. And all I'm saying to them is, are you serious? I'm here to help you if you're serious.
Right. And that goes back to your presentation through Planet B, which shows that all of the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, besides the economic one, can be solved through the vegan lifestyle.
Correct. Yeah. The lifestyle transformation will address a lot of those issues almost simultaneously. And then we have to tweak it a bit, around that. But it has to begin with that attitude transformation. It's a self-transformation that leads to the system transformation, that leads to the social transformation.
Do you feel that, like, for us who have learned about your materials and really dived into them, which I encourage anyone who reads There's a Planet B book to please go to the climatehealers.org website, read the papers, read some of Dr. Rao's materials. But when you do, it's clear, like crystal clear, that the veganism is the first step to the big solution. So based on your career, decades and decades of work related to this issue, do you feel that mainstream science is hiding the issue, or are they in the dark on the vegan as the sustainability solution?
No, mainstream scientists know this. They pretty much have all the data, because that's the data. I'm using their data. It's not like I'm coming up with different data. I'm using their data. So they pretty much know this. But they don't get funded to promote that solution. So if you write a grant saying, I want funding for promoting veganism, nobody is going to give you the money.
It's a system solution or system issue, right?
Right. It's a system issue. So the system basically puts a light. I say it's like looking for a solution under a street light. And that light says, You will only get funded if you work in this area. You won't get funded if you go outside this. So this is why hospitals are still, giving you bad food when you go to a hospital, because they are all about trying to get you to come back for more, and that's the system. It's built on growing your own business. How do you grow your own business, and how do you con people into giving you their money? So everybody is holding on to their money. They're putting it in their pocket, and then someone is trying to get it out of you, right? So it's that game we are playing, okay? And that gets the mainstream scientists to just look at fossil fuels. Just look at, it's only the questions that can be funded and nothing else. And this is how the system maintains itself, right? Now, I'm coming along saying, hey, that's why the system is like that. Now, if you just tweak it like this, you can solve the whole problem. Why wouldn't you do that? If you're interested in a planet that supports all of us. Again, as a systems engineer, I also know that systems can become unstable very, very fast. This is why I have this sense of urgency to tell people, don't think that just because it's been stable for the last 10,000 years, it'll remain stable forever. In fact, I don't know when it's going to go out of, can go out of whack, right? So systems, nonlinear systems have a tendency to instantly go to another state.
Right.
Or go unstable, meaning get hotter and hotter and hotter and melt. I watched a chip melt in the lab because I didn't model it correctly. And I had to go explain to my professor that all of his budget melted. And he has to fund me again to build the whole thing again.
So you saw, a total systems failure basically shut down that project. So if we relate that to the planet, that's a serious circumstance.
Correct. Yeah. To me, life is when systems all work in conjunction with each other and they support each other and they maintain life. So you're alive when your systems are all functioning well and they maintain, So your immune system is working fine, your digestive system is working fine, and all these systems are working fine within your body. But if, say, the circulatory system suddenly says, I'm done, and it stops, then you don't get oxygen to your cells, and, so then your immune system fails, all these systems fail right away. And that's called death. Death is the catastrophic failure of systems. And it's impossible to revive after it's dead. It's almost impossible to revive this thing. Planetary systems are like the life support systems on our body. It's quite fragile. Okay? And to me, a planetary system, a planet is alive. Our planet is alive, and when we are all living within the planet, we are like a cell in a body. And we are thinking, oxygen will always come. Food will always come, and someone will always take away my waste. Until it doesn't. And then you say, oh my God, what happened to me? And you're going to die along with the body, right? Same thing could happen to a planet. And so I'm saying, is it possible that a planet could also die? Will a planet also have a catastrophic failure of systems that leads to its death? And that's exactly what the Planetary Health Report is telling us. It's telling us that there are two systems, the biodiversity, biosphere integrity, and novel entities are high risk of destabilizing the life support systems of the planet. What does that mean? We don't know. If you destabilize the life support systems of a planet, will it go to another state and allow life to continue? Or will it just die? We have never studied a living planet to know how living planets die. There's only one living planet that we know of.
Right.
And this is why I said, please take it seriously. As a systems engineer, I'm telling you, please take it very, very seriously and address these transgressions and pull them within the green zone as quickly as possible.
Do you feel that in these now 2026 that people are more open to this vegan solution, are opening up more to the Planet B lifestyle?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it was actually, I was watching it, I was measuring it, and I was looking at how fast it was growing in the 2010s. Okay. And I was seeing the exponential growth of the vegan movement. And then 2019 came and the COVID happened, and and I could see that everything stalled. And since then, I think the meat industry has been fighting back. They made slaughterhouses as critical infrastructure, and they've been fighting back. They've been putting a lid on the vegan movement. They've been trying to make veganism as a bad word. And I said, okay, look at the definition of veganism. Why the heck is that bad?
Right.
Tell me what's wrong about it. So anyway, so I've been openly saying, continue using the word because it's scaring them.
Mm.
That's why they consider it to be bad. Okay, they're trying to make it seem bad. So they're spending a lot of money promoting and bottling up the vegan movement. So you can see that stalling since 2019 to 2025. It's kind of stalled. But all they have done is to bottle up a volcano, because they did not address the root causes for why people go vegan. Okay? They did not address any of those root causes. Those causes are actually getting worse and worse and worse.
Mm.
So which means that there is more and more pressure being built up in the volcano, and these people are sitting on it. They put a lid and they're sitting on it.
It's not a place I'd want to be right now.
I say, good luck with that. You're going to go off to the moon or Mars and you won't even know it.
So you end chapter 2 with a beautiful quote by the Buddha, and it states, 3 things cannot be long hidden: the sun, the moon, and the truth.
Right.
How does this 2,005-year-old approximately quote relate to our current time of the beginning of 2026?
Exactly what I meant by the volcano being suppressed. Okay? The truth is there. The truth says that going vegan will address all of our issues, and it'll make everything better. And they're sitting on it. It cannot long be suppressed. It will come out.
And there's hope. I think that's the thing is, you mentioned that a lot of children at schools, you feel that they're a little bit down on where they see the planet going. But with Planet B, there's hope. It's exciting. There's a place for everyone. And I'm just really excited about this future because the Planet B is coming. So let's just all go on the ride together.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, I was thrilled at the reception I got in the schools. I can see the children's faces light up. They're saying, oh, there is a way out. Because they have a lot of eco-anxiety among school children today. They keep getting stories about how bad things are. Because everybody's looking to the left and looking to the right, not looking at the solution. So when you want to solve a problem, you have to focus on the solution. And there is nothing that does not improve when we go vegan.
That's beautiful. In the next episode, we're going to get more into the solution because episode 3 is the 4 aspects of sustainability. So, Dr. Rao, would you like to share a closing message on episode 2?
Well, thank you so much for being here, and know that you're part of the greatest transformation in human history. So congratulations on being alive at this time.
Awesome. Thank you so much, and we'll see you again soon. This is the Planet B podcast signing out.
This has been a podcast from Planet B, where doing the right thing isn't considered extreme. If you haven't moved here yet, we thank you for visiting.